What's good, ladies and gents? Welcome to the MKO Pugilism Boxing channel where we talk all things boxing. Remember to like and subscribe, hit the bell notification and put it on all so you can get notified straight away as soon as new content drops on the channel. So right now I'm going to talk about a bit of I don't know, kind of gimmicky boxing now, which is Jake Paul, who just yesterday took on this Mike Perry. Mike Perry, to be honest with you, I don't know too much about him. What I do know about him is he was a champion. I think he still is a champion in the BKFC. I think he looks a lot smaller than Jake Paul, so I think he's somewhere around the light heavyweight limit. And he come into this boxing match with, I think he's done MMA as well and stuff like that. So I don't know all about his background, but I just heard of this sort of BK, bare knuckle boxing, BKB, sorry. And that's sort of where he makes his bread and butter. So he's world champion in that, which that's a tough old sport. It's a tough thing because you're hitting with your bare fist, so there's lots more cuts and yeah, it's a messy sport. It's a rough and tough sport. So he's coming into this against Jake Paul. Jake Paul, I think 9-1 going into this fight. The only loss was to Tommy Fury. And Jake Paul, one thing I must say about him, whether love him or hate him, he's very clever in what he's done. He come into this boxing thing. He's made millions off it, fighting a guy like Ben Askren, Tyron Woodley, and he's made millions off of fighting non-boxers for the most part. And as much as boxing fans, we will say, look, this guy's a joker. He's just fighting these non-boxers. At the end of the day, look, the thing about him is he's yes, that is the case, but what he's doing is he's got his audience and he's got millions of people that want to watch him and he's getting paid off of it. So as much as we may dislike the opponents, he's made a hustle out of it and he's made for a fortune off of it. So that aspect of it you kind of have to rate in a sense, at least. But yeah, from a business perspective, I suppose. So yeah, this guy's a BKFC, so I thought, okay, he might have a bit of boxing skill and whatever going into this, and it turned out that that wasn't really the case. He was well undersized by Jake Paul. Jake Paul looked like a heavyweight fighting a middleweight. Huge size advantage he had over this guy, and I'm pretty sure, he would have rehydrated up to God knows what. So yeah, it was a massive difference in size. And this Mike Perry guy, from the opening bell, from the word go, he's one of these guys that just sort of fights with his face, and he just come forward, walking out. He was just walking after Jake Paul, walking onto jabs and right hands, and Jake Paul just backing off of him, doing the right thing, throwing a nice, sharp and fast, crisp punches from outside, nice jabs and everything. And Jake Paul was just keeping him on the end of shots. And this Mike Perry guy had absolutely no defense. I noticed even from some of the highlights, rewatching that this guy was just square on. So he was literally, from the first round, from the opening bell, he was just a sitting duck for every Jake Paul shot. And, respect to him, the one thing he did show, the one commendable thing, was the heart and the courage, because he took some wallops. He went down in round 1. He pretty much should have been stopped in round 4 because he was just taking a beating. He was just following Jake Paul around, hands up, chin way up in the air, and just kept getting clapped and kept getting caught by Jake Paul as he's trying to follow him and just following him square on. He was doing pretty much everything wrong. He tried to put the pressure on Jake Paul at some points. He tried to, he landed a few shots, but the problem was he was so square on. He was doing pretty much everything wrong. Every mistake you can make in boxing, he was making it. Just, you walk after your opponent, you get hurt, and then you still just keep walking forward. You don't hold, you don't step back, you don't use any movement. There's no footwork, there's not even a guard. The guys just walked after Jake Paul like a zombie. Jake Paul just kept peppering. As I say, big knockdown in round 1. Round 4, he just hit the guy with a barrage of punches. Then for me, really, round 4, Jake, it should have been stopped in round 4, but the referee allowed it to continue. Round 5 again, Jake Paul gives him more of a beating, and he's taking the shots, and then round 6, finally it comes to an end, and Jake Paul puts him down again. He gets up wanting to fight on, which is, as I said, that's the one commendable quality he had, was heart and courage and determination. But he had absolutely no boxing brains and no boxing skill at all. He was just basically a sitting duck that just followed Jake Paul around like a zombie, and he was just completely and utterly square on. So he had no guard, and his chin was just up in the air all the time. So this guy, I thought he might have had a bit of skill or a bit of know-how, but he had nothing really that he brought to the table apart from heart and, looking to Jake Paul out. But he was just a sitting duck. He was a perfect opponent for Jake Paul to look good against, because all he done was follow him round, completely square on, an open target for Jake Paul to hit. And it was just a matter of when Jake Paul knocks him out, because he was a lot bigger than the guy and stronger and everything. So he had every advantage going into it. So yeah, the show continues with Jake Paul, and he's calling out Mike Tyson after. And for me, I think that's pathetic. I mean, Mike Tyson, yes, he was a great fighter in his day, in his 20s and 30s, in the 80s, and, somewhat into the 90s. But Mike Tyson ain't had a proper fight in 20 years. The man's like 58 years old. He's going to be 60 before we know it. He's, a man's a 60-odd-year-old. He's nearly 60 years old. And you're not going to prove anything by beating him. All you're going to prove is that, you just capitalize on certain opportunities. And I suppose from Jake Paul's perspective, it makes sense, because he's never going to do anything or achieve anything in real boxing against top-class talent. So if he can fight in these gimmick fights and get retired 60-year-olds like Mike Tyson into the ring, who once were ferocious, then he can still make some money off of that. So, yeah, let me know what you think about this, what you thought about Jake Paul beating the BK bare knuckle fighter, in 6 rounds. Let me know what you thought, and then until next time, it's MKO Pugilism, over and out.